There's a Jekyll and Hyde to me. I still have dreams of everything that has happened, but I like nightmares. I cannot regret. It just isn't me. I can't say what I really feel. Break. Don't laugh like that. You're making me laugh.
Why on earth would you have hurt those people?
Richard Ramirez, nicknamed the Night Stalker, took the lives of at least 13 people during often nightly break-ins. The heinous nature of his crimes and the fact that he targeted both very young and old people have made Ramirez one of the most notorious criminals. A look at what Ramirez's statements tell us about him and other personalities like his, with comparisons to other criminals. What are the warning signs we should look for? My background is in linguistics. Welcome to the channel.
I didn't particularly care for people.
This eloquent euphemism is symptomatic of Ramirez's speech behavior, constantly self-aware of what he says and how he says it, in order to be perceived in a certain way. Often, Ramirez downplays who he is.
Who are you?
Just a guy. Just a guy.
However, there are several indications that this downplaying is unreliable. Firstly, the long pause suggests that there are things on a speaker's mind that they don't say, undisclosed information, whatever it may be. Secondly, there's the enormity of Ramirez's crimes and modus operandi, leaving occult symbols with and on his victims, and thus sending a clear message to law enforcement that they are dealing with someone dangerous and also unique. In the excerpts we're about to see, there are many other indications that Ramirez isn't just a guy and doesn't want to be seen as one either. In the following, it's worth noting that Ramirez doesn't talk about himself directly. However, indirectly he talks about himself, using third person. This shows that he has his own interests in mind, what's less compromising for him.
Okay, go ahead. Next question.
In my talks with you, you gave me the formula for the serial kill.
Yes, I believe a serial killer comes about by circumstances, and it is like a recipe. Poverty, drugs, a few other things that I can't recall right now, but I believe that these things, you know, contribute to a person's frustration and anger, and at some point in life, he explodes.
Ramirez's assertive, laid-back body posture and the way he gives the interviewer permission to move on don't resemble the behavior of someone who's supposed to show remorse or humility. Rather, it resembles the behavior of a CEO. This is similar to Bernardo, who took control of his conversation with the police, even reprimanding them.
You guys love doing that. I'm this crazy psychopathic liar. Why was that statement issued? Why didn't they come in and talk to me if they didn't have enough information? We were waiting on that tape. You can play that tape back. I asked you guys if Pure Region were going to come in. I sat there month after month after month. No one came. I turned on the TV in September. Pure, declared that Bernardo was, this crazy liar to police. What's the fundamental problem here? Well, I mean, justice the Canadian way, and no one comes in, and now you guys are saying that you didn't have enough information. I'm not going to sit here and come voluntarily and have people come. You guys ban me from the press. You roll your stories over. I mean, that's just awful. I mean, come on. Okay. Enough manipulation, you know what I mean? I made mistakes a long time ago. But don't say that today about me, because then we're lying, and then we got a big problem, because I'm looking at you and you're the bad guys, because I'm not doing anything wrong.
Body postures and permissions or commands speak volumes about how a person views himself in relation to the person he's sitting across.
Okay, go ahead. Next question.
With the exception of I believe.
I believe a serial killer comes about.
Ramirez's speech behavior is characterized by a notable lack of hitches and modal verbs. Hitches are words that express uncertainty rather than certainty, and modal verbs can be used to express possibility. Thus, Ramirez doesn't say that a killer can come about by circumstances, and he doesn't say that such a person might explode, but that he explodes. And he talks about a recipe as if becoming a criminal is inevitable, given these circumstances. Thus, Ramirez speaks in terms of causation, not correlation, which speaks to how he views his own situation, if we ignore his contrived third-person perspective for a moment. He doesn't consider the obvious objection that what he says isn't always the case. Many people have had terrible upbringings and don't end up like him. His causation almost makes it sound like he had to end up like this, that he didn't have much choice in the matter.
Poverty, drugs, a few other things that I can't recall right now, but...
Exactly, a few things he can't recall. As we're about to see, recalling statements, quotes and punchlines is important to Ramirez. Most of the time, including this very passage, it sounds like he's more invested in reciting a script than giving profound and spontaneous answers. Criminals like Ramirez have a matter-of-fact way of stating things, as if what's true for them is true for everybody, even though that's not the case at all.
Every man has a demon that lives within him, but to control that demon, that's the hard part. That's the key. Control, self-control.
Did you in your life meet the demon within you?
Yeah, sure. I met him shakedown. I made love with the demons within me.
With this, Peter Lundin, a Danish American who took the life of his mother and the lives of an entire family, makes it sound like everybody's capable of doing what he's done, because he presupposes that everybody has the same living inside them. Thus, he can make it look like he isn't that different from everybody else, which is untrue. As a result of their assertiveness, many viewers will think that what these criminals say sounds reasonable, and maybe even right. For example, many people have applauded Ramirez for his message about governments. In the following, notice the causation in his speech again.
Serial killers do on a small scale what governments do on a large one. They are a product of the times, and these are bloodthirsty times. Even psychopaths have emotions if you dig deep enough, but then again, maybe they don't.
What he regurgitates about governments could be true, but no matter if it's true, it has no bearing on the crimes that people like Ramirez commit, and it certainly doesn't explain them. Also, we will always live in bloodthirsty times, so that's still not an explanation, let alone an excuse. Still, some people think he's speaking out against governments, but notice what he says later on.
Do you admit to being evil, Richard?
We are all evil in some form or another, are we not?
I'm asking you the questions, my friend.
Yes, I am evil. Not 100%, but I am evil. The great epochs of our life is when we gain the courage to rebaptize our evil qualities as being our best qualities.
With this, Ramirez glorifies the evil he's done. However, in order to be logically consistent, because of the comparison he's made between killers and the evil that governments are doing, according to him, he's implying that government should also rebaptize their evil qualities as their best qualities. Thus, Ramirez isn't on the side of the people, quite the contrary. He isn't on anybody's side. His statements are by definition antisocial.
Why on earth would you have hurt those people? Why did you kill those people?
No comments. No comments. I cannot answer that at this time.
So when will he be able to answer? At the time of this interview, he'd been incarcerated for years. Ramirez doesn't want to answer, because he wants to be the one who controls people's perception of him. And talking about his motivations would be way too direct. This passage is similar to when Ted Bundy was asked about one of his crimes, a particularly heinous crime.
Little Kimberly Leach, 12 years of age. What did you feel after that? Were there the normal emotions 3 days later? Where were you, Ted?
I can't really talk about that right now. That's
too painful.
I would like to convey to you what that experience is like, but I can't. I won't be able to talk about that.
Okay.
I can't really talk about that.
The modifying adverb really indicates that he actually can talk about it, but chooses not to.
I'm not a criminal. I mean, I've never really had no run-ins. A routine traffic check was, that's what my, that's what my criminal history consisted of. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a menace to society.
Never really had no run-ins, Lundin says. Notably, he doesn't say that he hasn't had any run-ins. His language indicates that he's had run-ins, just not really. However, he defines that. Unintentionally then, his own language indicates that he's been involved in more than just routine traffic checks.
I can't really talk about that right now.
The modifying right now is unreliable, because this interview took place hours before Bundy's death, so there won't be any other time to talk about it. So, once again, what he's really saying is that he doesn't want to talk about it, especially in light of the fact that he's used this entire interview to associate with other people, making it sound like he's not that different from everybody else.
But basically, I was a normal person. I led a normal life, except for this one small but very potent and very destructive segment of it. I was okay. I was. The basic humanity and basic spirit that God gave me was intact, but it unfortunately became overwhelmed at times. Those of us who have been so much influenced by violence in the media are not some kinds of inherent monsters. We are your sons and we are your husbands.
Thus, this question is in opposition to Bundy's self-serving agenda with the interview.
But I can't, I won't be able to talk about that.
Okay.
Looking at Ramirez on mute, these aren't the expected facial expressions of someone who's just been asked a question about hurting people. These are the facial expressions of someone who enjoys the notoriety and getting to say no comment. This point's particularly clear when he's asked easy questions.
Do you have emotions, Richard?
No comment.
A politician or celebrity couldn't have said it any more self-importantly. With this, Ramirez can keep people busy speculating about him, whether he has emotions or not. The question is easy and simple, so the fact that he chooses not to answer it is a testament to the control he seeks to have in this interview, and the dangerous image he has to maintain. Ramirez's assertive, uncompromising, but ultimately one-sided speech behavior continues.
They are desires, whereas if I didn't give in to them, I would be crushed by them. I believe in the evil in human nature. This is a wicked world, and in a wicked world, wicked people are born. I'm not going to blame society, my race, or people, or anything. It is up to the individual like myself to keep on knocking on whatever door they want to get into.
Ramirez presumably doesn't want to blame external influences, yet he's mentioned the circumstances that he claims to think will make people explode, as he phrased it. And he consistently minimizes his agency, talking about being crushed by these desires, as if they're external forces with their own will, and as if he's a victim of them. They want to get into, he says, not I want to get into. Thus, he's given the interviewer and audience enough hints to infer that the things he claims he won't blame did indeed make him what he is. Ramirez makes it sound like he's merely one of many wicked people who are that way because the world's presumably wicked. Once again, this is causation, language that underlines alleged necessity between two entities or more. If X, then Y. If a wicked world, wicked people like him. This is a worldview that misses the nuances that contradict it. His assertive tone and uncompromising causation resemble the speech behavior of not only other criminals with prominent psychopathic traits, but also powerful demagogues and dictators throughout history.
As far as Satan is concerned, I believe in a malevolent being. His description eludes me, but I have felt powers that are evil.
I met him shakedown. I made love with the demons within me.
I can only liken it to after, I don't want to over-dramatize it, but to have been possessed by something so awful and so alien, and then the next morning wake up from it.
Fueled your fantasies, didn't it?
Well, in the beginning it fuels this kind of thought process. Then at a certain time it's instrumental in what I would say crystallizing it, making into something which is almost like a separate entity inside.
People with prominent psychopathic traits will often refer to alleged evil forces outside themselves, albeit in varying degrees. Lundin went as far as writing that evil forces made him do what he did, so that it's not really his fault. Bundy's agenda in this interview is to portray himself as normal.
I was okay. I was.
So when he mentions the separate entity, it sounds like he's just a normal guy being exposed to forces outside of his control. This takes the focus, or some of the focus, away from what's essentially his own conscious and evil decisions. It's a way of sharing blame, as if there's a good side battling with a bad side. As a side note, investigators frequently use this two-persons tactic to get the suspect to confess.
So can we talk about two Chris's? Okay. Two Chris's. A tale of two Chris's? Okay. And you need to help me know which Chris I'm looking at today, and which Chris you really are.
When there's another person to blame, it's often easier to get the suspect to confess, as the suspect doesn't have to hold himself accountable. Thus, Chris Watts can blame the other Chris for what he did to his family, even though the other Chris doesn't actually exist, obviously. There's only one. Psychopathic people are impossible to trust. They're constantly self-aware, so there's always an element of acting to their behavior. That's the paradox. On the one hand, they do everything they can to be perceived as normal, and on the other hand, they draw attention to behaviors and statements that show that they're anything but normal. They're trapped between the false impression they want to give people, that they're normal, jovial, relaxed, etc., and a constant, exaggerated need of attention and notoriety.
Oh, me and my parents, we had a great, they were not just my parents, they were my friends as well. And, yeah, I mean, my parents are, they were like, we were a family. Sure. Got a girl calling me, why say why me? So free.
Next, Ramirez appears to be genuinely flattered by the attention he's getting.
What kind of a person are you?
Kind of person would I describe myself to be? I don't know. I'm just an ordinary person. But then again, there's Jekyll and Hyde to me.
With conjunction but, which is used to minimize or negate that which preceded it, Ramirez minimizes or negates the just a guy-like phrase we've heard before.
Just a guy. Just a guy.
The emphasis he places on the Jekyll and Hyde contrast he introduces makes it even clearer why that phrase was and is unreliable. This contrast makes Ramirez sound exciting and can keep people guessing about which side of him they're watching. He looks into the camera and even repeats the interviewer's easy-to-understand question, showing all the signs of someone who's relishing the attention.
As far as the crimes they say I committed, I've been convicted of. I still have dreams of everything that has happened, yes. But I like nightmares. I was happy till the day I got arrested.
Aside from his obvious lack of guilt and remorse when he says that he was happy until he got arrested, it's interesting how his own words give him away. He says they say I committed, and that he has dreams of everything that's happened. which is distancing and intentionally vague language. Ramirez is speaking as if he's innocent. However, people like Ramirez can't pretend to be normal for very long. No rational person likes to have nightmares, so saying that he does goes back to the same point, that people with prominent psychopathic traits are trapped between the false impression they want to give people, that they're innocent or normal, and a constant need of attention and to be seen as dangerous and mysterious. Ramirez's speech behavior resembles the cat that's toying with the mouse, believing to have the upper hand in the situation, and keeping people busy speculating about what's true and what's not. His behavior exposes prominent elements of acting and playfulness. Next, he goes back to being or playing the average and relatable guy who's level-headed and realistic. Watch this.
I do exercise. I meditate.
You did?
Yes, I meditate.
Here?
Yes, in my cell. I don't have any hope of getting out. And I don't see it as a reality, realistically. Looking at it, I don't see myself walking the streets again.
The playfulness or teasing continues in the following.
I am not engaged. I am not engaged, and no, I don't want to talk about anything like that.
However, he visibly likes talking about it, same as he liked saying no comment.
No comment.
Oftentimes, there's an interesting misalignment between Ramirez's facial expressions and tonality and the content of his statements. We see that in the following as well.
Do I associate with violence? Break. Man, that's a hard question. I don't know. I can't answer that, Mikhail. I mean, okay. No, we can't get into that. See, she tries and makes, keeps me going, but I can't. Don't laugh like that. You're making me laugh. I hope you edit this real good, Philip. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, man. What do you? I'm at a loss here. What do you want me to say? People.
I wanted to say the things you've made me think you got.
Hold on, Mike. Hold on. Look, sometimes I can't say what I really feel. I am pending trial here. Well, no, I don't think I'll answer that. No.
For someone who can't answer that, and who supposedly hopes that this part is edited real good, Ramirez sure spends a lot of time drawing attention to how funny he allegedly considers this question to be. This is superficial charm on full display. Superficial because, first of all, the serious content of this question, in light of Ramirez's many victims, doesn't call for this reaction, let alone so many repetitions of how he supposedly can't answer it. And secondly, because Ramirez is extremely self-aware of how he smiles and looks while doing it. He shows all the signs of someone who's trying to come across as a jovial and funny guy, when in reality, it could be argued that the context makes him seem anything but, that his behavior is inappropriate.
I can't say what I really feel. I am pending trial here.
This goes to show that the long break was a masquerade, because this is as close to a yes as we get. The reason why he can't say what he really feels is because he does associate these two things. If not, he would have said no. Once again, this is the cat toying with the mouse being the interviewer and the audience.
Huh? What?
זה קשה לראות שהוא מתקרב אלייך ככה.
Well, I agree. That was a stupid answer, but Jesus. Regretting is not my style. I cannot regret. It just isn't me.
Why, you feel it's threatening your well-being?
Possibly. I believe in fate, destiny.
Regretting isn't anyone's style. It's an integrated, inescapable part of most people's personality structure. Ramirez makes it sound like a switch you can turn on and off. And when the interviewer asks if he thinks that regret threatens his well-being, he says possibly. If it actually threatened his well-being, he would have known and said yes. This passage goes to show that he doesn't have a normal grasp of what regret is and what he should be regretting.
I was happy till the day I got arrested.
Saying that he believes in fate or destiny is in line with the circumstances that he mentioned previously. Circumstances that supposedly contribute to a person who's bound to explode one day.
Are there any things about you you'd want to be remembered for? Things that are positive in you? Things that you think are special?
I survived as best as I could.
Usually, when a person's asked this type of question, they go on and on about what they hope to have been or done for other people. Ramirez doesn't. His focus is himself, his wants and needs, making it sound like his victims, whom he frequently robbed, were merely pawns in his way of surviving as best as he could, as he phrases it. However, Ramirez knows right from wrong, so he knows that this wasn't the best he could do. It was what he chose to do. He chose to do evil, and that's different.
I don't care about myself, really. I don't care about what happens to me. I never did, really.
In my opinion, there's a reason for Ramirez's repetition of the adverb really, which again has a modifying function. Someone like Ramirez, who speaks in such self-protective and self-important terms, and whose speech behavior and body postures point to feelings of superiority, does care about himself and what happens to him. See you next time.